Hey guys, hope you're having a great day today. My name is Daniel and I'm the High Mileage Helper. On this channel, my goal is to be able to help you learn more about the RV transporting industry, as well as give how-to videos for your truck and then give recommendations along the way. So if this is our first time meeting, just consider subscribing, hitting the like button if you get good value. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the summarized version of the interview that I did with my wife when we were at Key Largo on our honeymoon. I'm getting it put together right now, and I just want to share this with you in a summarized version if it could be a help to you or maybe your spouse or maybe someone you know. So let's go ahead and get into the interview. And we are here to do an interview. And essentially, I really wanted to do this, and I've mentioned this to Kara some time ago, of doing an interview, interviewing her. What's her take been with me being on the road? You know, it's been 5 years. There's been a lot of changes in my life, in our relationship, in her life as well. And we've gone through a lot. And RV transport has been a part of that along the way, for better or for worse. And so we wanted to just give just answer some questions, getting her perspective on these things, because I know in the past I've had several guys, husbands for maybe many years, say, hey, my wife is scared of me getting into this line of work. She doesn't really know what to expect. What's this about? Just kind of going blind, and that's kind of a scary thing for sure. And I want to do the best I can, do my part if I can, to be able to point people in the right direction. And so that's where I turn it over to my wife, and she can give that perspective that I cannot. So just so you know the format, what we're going to do, I don't know how long this is going to last. It may last a short while. Me interviewing her, maybe longer. I don't know. We've got a list of questions we've been preparing, wanting to ask some really deep questions, some thoughtful questions, really getting into this. And so after I do the full interview, that's when we're going to take your questions or go to your comments. So as of right now, I'm not going to be able to really connect with you guys, go back and forth with you right now. But we are going to just kind of jump right into this and just talk about some things. So yeah, this is if you don't already know, this is my wife Kara. Hi. We got married December 20th. I started driving in 2016, February 1st, which is today. So 5 years to the day I was hired on with Synergy. Again, for better or for worse. And it's been a long 5 years. I can say that in a good way or a bad way, whatever you want to say, but a lot of things have happened in 5 years. And shortly thereafter, I met her. We got to talking, and it's been a wild ride ever since. So yeah, we will go ahead and jump into this. So first off, also one of the formats of this that we wanted to do was to kind of give a progression of from when we first met and then all the way up until now. So you can kind of see the progression of the last 5 years. And it's not, perfectly timed out. Obviously, life is not perfect. But just seeing the process of us, we literally just met. We started dating. I know many people in this industry, they're already married, probably even already have kids. Who knows? And so maybe this is a little off, but maybe there's some similarities we can help each other with, talk about. Maybe this can be a help to you. So yeah. So the first question we have is, Kara, what was your first impression of me being out on the road when you first met me? What did you think of that? Did you think it was good? It was bad? It was weird? You do what? You're all over the country. What was your first impression?
Well, first I want to say, did you tell them that we did meet online?
We did meet online.
So it was.
We were 3 hours away from each other, Indiana and Ohio. So we did not grow up in the same place or anything like that.
So my first impression of RV transporting and like what he did was, at first I was like, oh, that's pretty cool because so he would take a lot of loads to come over to Ohio. And so that was cool because there's many times where, he would come and surprise me or, just things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like that you could take loads going east, like you would, come by, like if you're on your way to Maine or
just
whatever.
Happen to be in the neighborhood.
Coming through. And so that was pretty cool. I also thought it was kind of difficult at first because I don't see you a lot. I would see you, maybe on the weekends if I were to visit. But as far as it was kind of mixed, it was nice, but it was difficult because I wouldn't see you a lot during the week. So it was mostly a lot of verbal communication, not really a lot of physical. I could see him, we'd FaceTime, but for the most part, it was kind of a mix. So
yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Second question: what were your biggest questions with me driving out on the road? What were your biggest how is this going to work type of a thing? What were those questions?
I had to write some of them down because I couldn't remember all of them. So I'm just going to read some of them. So one of them I put down was what's a reasonable amount of trailers to take in a month to pay all the bills? So I was thinking bigger picture of if we were to get married someday, what's some reasonable amount of trailers? So you're not killing yourself or you're wanting you're paying your bills, you're making sure that, you have all your bills paid. So that, how will we set aside quality time for each other? That's a huge thing for me because quality time is one of my big love languages is quality time. And it's not just going to the grocery store and running a bunch of errands. It's sitting down, having an actual conversation. So quality time. One
thing about the quality time that it took a couple years for us to finally understand this, but for Kara, the way she was made, how God created her quality time is not 5 hours being smushed together and you're just stuck together for 5 hours. Quality time, 5 hours being alone, it's really a quality time for her is a deeper intellectual conversation. It's a connecting of here's where I'm really at, here's where you're really at. Okay, well, here's where we come together. And so for us to come to that point, it took a while because it'd be confusing, especially starting out. We just spent the whole day together and you feel what? We didn't spend any time. What are you talking about? And finally, I just kept asking enough questions. I was wait a second. This quality time thing, it's not about the amount of hours we're together and we're just alone and that's quality time. That's not quality time to my wife. Quality time is we're one-on-one connecting and we're talking and it's a deep, we're in it together, talking through whatever
solving
it is.
Real problems.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that was huge for us starting out. And it still is something you can't force that. It needs to be organic. Just us coming together in a conversation and just seeing where it goes. And it usually ends up pretty deep and we just, talk for a while and afterwards sometimes I'll ask, hey, did we connect? And she'll be like, yes. So anyway, so especially at the beginning, that was difficult.
The other one is it worth the money for all the maintenance on your truck and wear and tear on your vehicle? So essentially you go out and take all these trailers and I'm you got a lot of wear and tear on your vehicle. You have to maintain it, which leads to my next question of how much time are you going to be spending working on your truck when you come back home? Because it's okay, you're on the road all week. Maybe you take a couple loads, take a day trip or two, take another one that's 2 or 3 days or whatever, and you come back home for the weekend. And, I work a full-time job, 40 plus hours a week. So I'm busy during the week. And, the weekends are pretty much the only time that I have a lot more time on my hands. So I would think, okay, Like, are we going to even be able to spend any time together on the weekends? Because, you know, you have to work on your truck to make sure that it's running, operating properly, making sure that everything's good to go for another load, which obviously is super important, but you have to really prioritize, which we've had to learn that is like prioritizing, like, what do I need that's essential that needs to get done, but then what can wait? Like, what's another project that I can have that I can do another time? So.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning, especially because I am not a mechanic. I am really, really, really not a mechanic. At the beginning, the amount of maintenance I was doing, replacing things as I really started to rack up the miles, the amount of time it took to just do those simple things was so long. It was just so difficult for me because I'm just an idiot.
That's terrible.
I had no idea what I was doing. I would cause a second problem after messing something up. And so for me, at the beginning, it took a lot longer to do these simple things. And I would just say, well, I've got to get this stuff done. And I don't want to pay somebody else to do it because I'm just throwing my money out the door. I want to learn these things now so that I can get better at it later. So where I'm still not having to pay somebody, but now I'm faster at it. Maybe I'm more efficient, cost effective with all sorts of different things. And so at the beginning, man, my profit margin was probably the worst at the beginning of a business, starting a business. My profit margin was just the worst out of the last 5 years. It was probably the first year because, man, I just did not know what I was doing. And I was taking all the time when I was home on the weekends, I was taking up a good majority of that time working on my truck. If we weren't at church, I was working on my truck or I was sleeping. That's pretty much how it was for a good portion of it. So that was very challenging to something you just said, being able to what can wait and what has to get done now before I even go out even on the next load. For me, I always lean more towards, well, everything's a priority. I've got to get this all done. Well, Daniel, you settle down. Basically just shut up, stop. The sky's not falling, the truck's not falling apart. There's things that have got to be done. There's things that can wait a little bit longer. And so that was a learning process for me. She probably want to knock me out. It was challenging, seriously.
Not that mean.
So
knock you out.
No, she probably could though. Let's see here. Was that all of the?
Yeah.
All that? Okay. So what were your fears with me being out on the road? What did that? If I was gone on the road, what would you be fearful of? Was there anything you would be fearful of with me being gone?
Obviously, the biggest thing is getting in an accident because you can be as safe of a driver as possible. But everybody knows that there are still drivers out there that just don't pay attention. So my fear is always, like, I've had times where you've been on the road and I don't hear back from you and I'm like, are you okay? Like, can you just send me a quick, like, hey, I'm good? Because, obviously anything can happen. The other thing is missing out on family stuff because of unforeseen circumstances, which I can share like a good example, just being kind of real and raw with you guys. So before we got married, and I've been living for like three and a half years or so. And so I remember we were going on a family vacation with my family, and we were going down to, I believe it was Tennessee. Something had happened to his truck. I can't even remember.
I can tell you. If you guys remember the story I shared quite a while ago, 6 of my wheel studs sheared off on my dually on the right side, and I had 2 lug nuts holding on 2 wheel studs that were half shaven off. And so at any point in time, those 2, because I did not retorque my wheel studs or my lug nuts, whatever, after I had a tire change or a rotation. It got so I didn't notice it was still perfectly fine until I got literally to my house, And I was like, I'm wobbling as I'm coming into the property. Like, what? And yeah, it was really, really bad.
Yeah, so that was like, we were supposed to be going to, so I had already left town to go be with my family, and he was going to come and just follow. Well, that didn't happen because of the issue with his truck. And so I was not very patient in that situation because I wanted him to be there, obviously, with our family for vacation. And so that's, my biggest fear is that, like, kind of almost having a pity party of, like, crawling into my own little pity party of, well, let's just not plan anything because, who knows what's going to happen. And so I think that's, a big fear is, like, just missing out my own priorities of wanting to essentially say, well, you shouldn't let this happen. Almost kind of taking it out on you, which I've done before. Another thing too, like a fear, I guess, would be like you're too tired to do anything when you get home. You're on the road all week, or maybe you have like one break a day. Like you're home for one day, then you go back out on the road. Like there's stuff that like I need help with. Now that we're married, it's like we have stuff to do on the house, and so I'm thinking, what's wrong with you, Daniel? Like, wake up. I need stuff. I need you to help me with this stuff. So, being too tired to help out with things around the house, being broken down in the middle of nowhere with no help. That's obviously a huge thing because you could get stranded at any point in time with your truck. And so not being able to, which I don't know if you've shared any stories, but you've had a couple, well, I know at least one major one where you were just like stranded, and it was pretty scary because you were like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know where I'm going to get this help, and so just things like that scare me because it's just scary stuff. And also to like financial downfalls as far as like your truck blowing up, like obviously before I met you, because we started dating in, we started talking in March 24th, 2016.
I had just got the Ram 3500 on March 8th of 2016. So 2 weeks and some change. And so going from a 79,000 mile truck, which is basically no mileage at all, to then starting to have things happen later on. Yeah, that was the difference.
I mean, your truck blowing up, it's out of your control. There's so many things out of your control that happen, and you have to just be patient and try to just take it one thing at a time. Like think, okay, like what can I do? There's always something that you can do regardless. And if it was me, I'd be panicking. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't be able to do the driving job, but I support you 100% because you've been through a lot when it comes to being on the road. Like I wouldn't be able to keep it together. I would be like, I'm losing my mind, So yeah, that's been a huge thing. I think that's the only other thing I wrote down was just like the biggest things that I thought of.
If I can just say on the other side of that, but just to kind of add on to that, for me, being on, when I am on the side of the road and, my transfer case is in shambles or my injector's blew, or, a number of other things that are maybe smaller that have happened, I definitely know as the person doing the job, when I'm out there literally alone on the side of the highway, it can feel very alone. It can be very, discouraging. Absolutely. It can be depressing. But I can tell you over time, as more and more things have happened, one of my first, besides safety and those things, contacting her and telling her, hey, here's what happened. Here's the bill this time or what it's going to be, down the road, whatever. And just getting the support from her that she, and we'll kind of talk through these things a little bit later, but seeing the support from my end of this, that she's kind of grown into being able to be that encouragement from far away. When I am just sitting there like about to light a match and set my truck on fire. Not really, but
don't do that.
But yeah, a lot of those things. Fear can be pretty intense. Next question: what is the toughest thing you have had to do while I've been going out on the road?
I would say having to now that we're married, it's kind of like running the whole house essentially in a way where, you know, just having to take care of things while you're gone. Probably the biggest thing, which is a more being honest and vulnerable, because I struggle a lot with being patient, and it may not seem like that, obviously, from the just not even knowing me, but it's, I remember like when I first moved to Lafayette, and I remember like just completely breaking down all the time whenever like a Sunday night when you'd have to go on the road, and I would just break down saying like, I can't do this, you know, because I had just moved from living with my parents. And so I was on my own. I was living in my own apartment. It was kind of one of those things where I had to be pushed out off the deep end a little bit and like try to start swimming essentially. So I know that we've talked about it, but I've definitely getting there as far as like being patient and understanding in some of the areas, you know, when something doesn't go, kind of going along hand in hand with unforeseen circumstances, when those things happen, but like being patient, understanding, even when plans change, you know, not blaming you when something's out of your control, when something happens, because at times, you know, it feels like I'm on my own essentially. And now that I've been able to be on my own before we got married, I have learned how to be independent, learned how to kind of be on my own, and not saying that I'm not saying that to say like I don't need him, but I learned how to just take care of things. And so, which has not been easy at all. He's had to take a lot of the, just, I don't know. It was just very difficult. So I think, you know, for other like men out there that are, you know, maybe like your significant other, your spouse is like, I don't think this would be a good idea. You know, it's not for everybody, obviously. You have to really sit down and evaluate, you know, is this a good thing for our family? Like, would this be helpful in the situation that we're in our circumstances? And so, obviously I can't sit here and say like, well, you know, if you really want to do it, you know, who cares what your wife or your spouse, you know, whoever says, obviously you got to sit down and talk with them about that and really consider what you are able to do, because like you've talked about many times, you know, every driver is different. Every person can handle so many things. So it really is about the needs of your significant other, your spouse. Like, what do they need in that time frame? There's been many times where, you know, you have not intentionally taken, did I say that right? You haven't taken in loads intentionally because of, you know, whatever circumstances are going on, or maybe there's something going on with me or you or both of us. Like, really, that's why not to like jump into the next subject, but that's why I've grown to appreciate the business itself, because of the flexibility it has to offer to just, I mean, literally you just can do where you want to go, what you want to do. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that it's, you know, on your own time essentially. Yeah. So that would be like how to answer that question. I think that.
How has let me say this right. How has me being gone on the road affected our relationship, you know, dating, and then also being married now? And we've only been married for a month and some change now, but how has that affected our relationship? Do you think?
Obviously, kind of what I touched on in the beginning, where the dating aspect, even when I moved where Daniel is at and where we're at now, but a lot of verbal communication, more so because of the distance. I never thought that I'd be able to be with somebody that was distance relationship. I mean, it's like three hours from where I was living, so it wasn't like terrible. But, you know, obviously God brought us together for a reason, and so I was able to get through the distance of all of it. I'll just say, like with like marriage too, with how where we're at. Obviously, we're newly married, so we're still like learning and growing through that whole process. But I think what makes it neat now being married and you being on the road is that, like, you know, you have somebody, and you can probably speak to this on your end of things, how you perceive it, but being able to like come home to somebody, like not just, well, I'm coming home to an empty house, like, you know, just being able to know that like someone's coming home to you safe, you know, praying safely, you know, knowing that like we're working together financially, Yeah, I think just dating was a lot different just because we were kind of still we were together, but we were, on our own. Like my bills are my bills, your bills are your bills, because I was living on my own. So I think that having that stability with your job and knowing that like we're now being able to work together through the financial aspect of the job, and knowing that you can take a break when you need to if you know that if we know that our bills are being paid, so I don't know if that answers the question. Being intent. Another thing, I guess I did write something down here. Like being intentional now that we're like with the difference between the two with dating and then marriage would be, not that we weren't doing this before when we were dating, but we kind of had our own schedule. Now that we're married, it's being more intentional about like, hey, talking through scheduling, like what's happening, doing things together, not planning things like, oh, by the way, this is going on. Oh, you never told me that? What happened? Like trying to be good with actually scheduling things together and talking through things. That's obviously a work in progress, but I think you do a pretty good job. But
yeah, from my side of it, because of how RV transport is, yes, we do get to choose where we get to go. When that's going to be. We can pick up the phone on Monday, get a load for that day or the next day or whatever. And for me, I really was in the habit of just kind of doing whatever I wanted to. And I kind of had my own routine. I would do, as I mentioned, I think a couple times at least, my old routine where I would do a Monday and a Tuesday load, about a 600 to 700 mile run going out east. I'd come back, and then I would do a Thursday, Friday, because I have church on Wednesday. And so I do a Thursday, Friday. And so I just kind of had this little loop I was doing, going east and then go west a little bit, and do that. And so that was just kind of my own deal. And now that we're married, because these trips they can go, if you're going, especially if you're going out west, that's a several day block that you're gone, you're unavailable. Your wife needs you for this or that. Something happens, your kid, I don't even know. This job, you really have to be intentional. If you're going to be gone, you need to know there's nothing you're going to be missing that's actually important. And so for us, I struggled deeply. She is the planner. She is the organized person. She is the everything. I am not those things. I have to pull my own teeth just to get myself to go halfway there. She probably wants to pull the rest of my teeth here. It's very. I'm not saying nothing. It's very challenging for me. And so for us to get to the point where, as she kind of mentioned, we're scheduling these things out. We know, okay, well, Thursday, this has to happen. Well, that means if I'm going to be home Thursday, which means I need to be home Wednesday night, because there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to wake up at the crack of dawn in Missouri on this morning and just book it back home to be available by then and be like refreshed and alive, actually available, not just a zombie. I need to be home Wednesday night, which means I can't take a load past this many miles, because at a certain point, this many miles is going to be too much and I won't be able to get back home in time, and it'll just blow everything up. And so there were several times, even dating, we had some plans going on. It was very challenging that I just didn't think things through. Now I think I'm better, but I really that was a very difficult thing for us, for me, to get through, and now we just basically just have to talk through everything. Imagine that. But we really do try to talk through everything. So in case there is something that is down the road, okay, well, I thought the week through. You almost when the Sunday night hits right after this live, on a normal Sunday night live, that's pretty much I'm resetting my brain. I'm thinking, okay, I have 5 days. What am I going to be doing? Am I going to be out on the road 3 or 4 of them? Am I going to be home? What's going on? And so for me, that's been a very difficult process. So what are the pros of this driving job? What's you want to do pros and cons? Well, I mean, we talked a lot about different cons. What are the pros in your eyes with me doing this job?
Well, I would say that first off, we got paid to come down here at Key Largo.
Booyah,
So essentially,
let's go.
Because we literally were praying. We're like, Lord, like, please provide just some sort of trailer.
Anything close.
We didn't even talk about, like, we talked about what trailer would actually be worth the money to come down here, because we talked about, wasn't it Atlanta, Georgia would have been like the best case scenario for coming down here.
Yeah, worst case scenario.
Worst case, right?
I decided was, we left Saturday morning, and so with us getting here Monday afternoon here, if we were still up in Georgia, if we were still up somewhere else, it would not have been worth it. And so I just decided, Atlanta, Georgia is going to be the highest place where we would get a decent amount of money, and it would be worth it, but we'd still be kind of cutting out some of our own time. We would have wasted some time up there still driving rather than being here down already. Thankfully, seriously, I saw the load on the board on Friday afternoon. I just randomly refreshed the button, and I saw Ocala, Florida. I'm like, Lord, you just rocked my world. And I'm like, hello, is this load still available? Yeah. Can I please have it? Boom. Yep. So anyways, paid vacation. Essentially, if it works out at the time of the year, obviously if it was summertime or more into the heavier season, it probably would not have been a problem to find even multiple Georgias we could have picked from. But even now, thankfully, God willing, we got here.
It's like a 5.5 hour drive.
Yeah, from Ocala, Florida to
Key Largo.
Key Largo, it's like 5 and some change extra. I'm like, we'll take it. That's definitely one of the pros. Anything else you would say?
I think I've already touched on it, but just being able to be flexible with your schedule, like you're not clocking in and out, a 9 to 5 job. Like you can kind of work your own hours, and obviously within the range of the company, being able, like with Synergy, isn't it like a trailer once a month or something?
Bare minimum to stay on the books, to be leased on with them, is 1 trailer a month.
Okay, that's what
so that's pretty easy to do, especially because that 1 trailer could be like 300 miles. And obviously I'm doing a lot more than that, but
I would say that's the 2 most like that I can think of. Not being in RV transporting. The pros again would be like being able to intentionally take a load like what we did, going on vacation, using that money to basically use it for the honeymoon. So there you go. Or being able to use that time whenever you want to go on a trip, being flexible.
Last 2 questions kind of go together, but I'm going to ask them individually. The second to last question is, do you wish that I never went into RV transporting? What do you think?
So in the beginning, I thought it was a huge headache when we first started dating, because I was like, I don't know how this is going to be sustainable, because I didn't really understand. And I kind of was going into the perspective with obviously questioning, is this going to work? Or I was also, sorry, my sock fell off. My feet are cold. Just, is this going to work? And then now that I've progressed and time has gone on, honestly, it's not me. It's definitely the Lord giving me like the endurance to like work through my thoughts through it, because I I remember in the beginning when we first started dating, I thought, okay, if this guy is the one, there's no way that this is going to be of me being able to actually like be able to be in this kind of relationship where somebody like this is on the road all the time. Is this going to be sustainable? And now obviously that I've gone through, I've been able to actually say, yeah, I think that it's worth it. Because again, of all of there's always pros and cons to any sort of job or anything that you're pursuing. But again, RV transporting is not for every single person out there, obviously. But from my perspective, I think that you really have to think, and being the person that I am, like the Lord is a big part of my life, obviously. And so I think that, again, the Lord's the one that's been able to get me through this whole time. And so, to make a long answer short, yes, I think that, it's been worth it. And I don't know if you want to.
So you don't wish that I.
No, I don't wish.
Or however I worded that.
And I mean, can I just go ahead and
Okay,
so question with it, or no?
So the next question, the last question before we go to you guys and talk with you guys is: do you wish I never started YouTube talking about truck stuff, RV transport stuff?
Well, we were just talking about this on the way back from picking up some delicious pizza here in Key Largo. But anyways, so at first, and I mean, he can definitely testify to this. Being honest, I really, when you first started doing YouTube and then trying to incorporate that with RV transporting, I really wasn't as supportive as I should have been. And I am not where I need to be as far as the support goes, because being a selfish person in some areas, I thought, you're wasting your time. I need help with stuff. Why aren't you're always on your computer editing videos. Are you done yet? What are you doing? And so I kind of thought that it was kind of a waste. And we've obviously had conversations where I'm still working on it as far as being okay with the whole thing, the whole of the everything. But when I think about the bigger picture, and when I think about how it's not about me, it's about his heart and where he's at and what his goals, dreams, aspirations, the whole shebang, all that stuff. Obviously, it's important that, I'm supporting you, you're supporting me. I think that that's been a huge thing from the very beginning, even before we got married, is that, we're supporting each other, we're encouraging each other, and where our hobbies and things that we enjoy doing and following after those. And I see that there are so many people out there that need help. And I mean, I'm blown away. I jokingly told Daniel, I said, if you ever get famous, please remember me, because, don't get too famous where you're who's care? I don't know who that is. I know that would never happen, but I just had to put that out there. But it's one of those things where having that conversation of, you have always said that you wish that you had people that could help you, and not saying that no one's ever helped you with your truck, but things that you've learned along the way. You have said, I wish that I would have had somebody that would have been able to walk through this with me and help me with all of these things with my truck, things that I've learned in RV transporting, all of that stuff. And then seeing your heart as far as saying, I want to start a YouTube channel because I want people to see how easy it is. Well, I wouldn't say easy because I don't know anything about trucks, but just knowing that you've been able to help people with their vehicles and RV transporting and answering questions, and not expecting anything in return, essentially, which is a very hard mentality to have because we all feel like we deserve something in return. And obviously there's been a lot of people out there that have been super supportive of him. And I feel that because I care about him and love him, I feel that. And so it's just been neat to see the bigger picture of it, like seeing like how many people you've met, how many people, you know, that you've impacted that have, you know, you've told me many times where they've told you, hey, like if it wasn't for you, I would never have gotten to RV transporting, you know, all of those different people.
Crazy.
And so, you know, you just look at the bigger picture and realize that there's so many people out there that just need help and you want to be that person to help them. And I think that's a huge thing that, like, that's for me, obviously that's one of the reasons I love your heart and where you're at because of that. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything, even though there's been times where I'd be like, Daniel, get off the computer. Like, you know, in my selfishness, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just so neat, like, to see you got like 48 people watching this. Like, that's just insane. Like,
Crazy.
I just think that's huge that people are just taking their time out of their day to just watch. Like, that says something about the people that, what's that noise? Sorry.
Somebody is
Sorry.
playing.
So anyways, that's all I have to say. I'll get off of my soapbox, but yeah. So
we're just so very grateful that everybody tuned in. Really hope this was a help to you guys, especially anybody you know who this might be a help to. Please share it with them. It's not about just getting the High Mileage Helper name out. I genuinely hope that couples and families can get some help. I've heard horror stories at truck stops from guys who just say, "Oh, my old lady is just a da-da-da-da-da-da. I'd rather be gone and on the road and don't even see her." And man, I got a problem with that, and my heart just kind of dies when I hear that. And so, addressing these kind of things, this is a part of the industry. Relationship stuff, it's just too important. This job is not worth losing your marriage over, your kids over if you have them. It's just too important, and this is just something that's been on my heart, been on our heart for some time. And so, if we can, if you want to reach out to me or Kara, if you send an email to my email, I can get you in contact with Kara. At the subject line, if you want to speak to her, just put at the top of the subject line of the email. Just put for Kara or Kara something, you know, whatever. And that would be Kara. If you would want to speak with her, I will get that to you. I don't know why I've got the hiccups or the burps, but we're gonna shut it down for tonight. I appreciate everybody being here.
All right, guys, thanks so much for watching the interview that I did with my wife. Just kind of asking different things about RV transport from her perspective, and just trying to be a help to you and maybe someone else you might know that maybe this could be a help, kind of talking through different things. Maybe it sparks different conversations for you and your spouse, or maybe this simply just helps you plan and prepare for when you start getting into RV transport if you already haven't gotten into it yet. So with all that being said, hopefully you have a great day today. Stay safe, guys, and God bless.